Hello there, Pursuing Freedom friends. Thank you, as always, for being here with me today. So it is our 60th episode. And in order to celebrate, I am coming to you guys today with a very special episode specifically targeted at helping you find more organization, discipline, systems, structure, and all things that most of us entrepreneurs abhor, but the things that make us successful, and not only make us successful, but ironically bring us energy, better results, and a better, more balanced life, which is what we're all about here at Pursuing Freedom. So the reason I wanted to bring this to you today is because as I was going through some old questionnaires and surveys of some of my past coaching clients, I noticed that there was a common theme when the question was, what is bringing you to coaching today? And the common theme was, I need to be more organized. I need a daily plan. I need a system. I need to have more discipline. I need more accountability. And so what I've noticed is that it's really interesting how when we become self-employed, success in real estate, there's a saying that it's simple, but it's not easy. And I think what that means is that if you came from a structured employment environment, if you came from a job and you were used to having the rules set out for you, and then you become self-employed, in most cases in pursuit of freedom and flexibility, that elusive freedom and flexibility, what I find is that so many of us end up working 24/7, whether we're at the beginning of our career and we're trying to get off the ground, and therefore we feel guilty doing anything other than working because we're so hungry and we just want to make sure that we can succeed, and we've just taken the leap of faith and we've given up that paycheck, and so we've gone all in 100% commission, and until it clicks we're going to go all in and we're going to give it everything we've got. And then on the flip side, because we've almost trained ourselves to be operating in that manner where we're going to jump at that, the second the phone rings or an email comes in or that lead comes in, we're going to jump and we're going to be reacting because we're so grateful and excited for that business to have come in to begin with, that when the business does click and it does take off, a couple things happen. Number one, we're used to working 24/7. And so we continue to work 24/7 because we basically have to keep up with the demand, but also because honestly, we never created any systems to begin with. And so when you're trying to implement systems after you've achieved some level of success, it's even more difficult because you feel that you can't or you shouldn't. And I hear a lot of my coaching clients talk about feeling guilty, for example. So we were talking the other day with a group, and I heard the word guilt a number of times in the same episode, the same conversation. And it was just in regards to feeling like we can't live our lives, or we can't, go to have lunch with our kid at the preschool today because we need to be working. And so we put all this pressure on ourselves that we almost create our own stress and anxiety because we've simply never put any boundaries in place. And so to do so when we're either hungry and eager for the business, or to do so after we've achieved some level of success and we're so grateful for it and basically paralyzed by fear that we're going to lose it, it becomes very challenging to implement those systems. And so in my own journey, I didn't have any systems in place. I'm definitely like fly by the seat of your pants kind of person, which is my reality. I am very spontaneous. I tried growing my business, quote unquote, organically. I had no game plan for success. And if you know anything about my story, you know how it wasn't pretty those first few years. And I wasn't really finding any consistency in my business. I was finding sustainability, but not significance by any means. And it was fine. But at the end of the day, eventually it clicked when I started implementing some level of discipline into my business. I saw results. And then when I saw results, I found myself 24/7, and I had no systems, no training to be systematized or organized. So it was a real struggle on both ends of the spectrum there. And I'm sure if you're listening, you can relate to some of this. Like if you're hungry for business and you wake up every day, you're not sure what to do. And frankly, when you're getting started, there is a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear around picking up the phone and calling friends and family. There's a lot of fear around setting appointments and feeling like you're doing so with an agenda to get more business and get more deals. And so we kind of go through our days doing what? Social media, responding to emails, checking our emails, and not really having any game plan. We don't know how to get from where we are to where we're trying to go. And this is a real challenge. And then on the flip side, if you're someone who's feeling overwhelmed right now, then I know that the thought of putting boundaries in place seems impossible, because you're frankly in it right now. You're on the hamster wheel, you're in it, you're grateful, the money's coming in, and the thought of being able to organize it in any way feels elusive or impossible. So what I want to do today is I want to give you guys 3 specific strategies and tools that can help you very much simplify. I don't know if that was good English, but that's all right. We're going to go with it. It'll help you simplify your entire process, bring a little bit more space and time into your life, into your personal life, and make your business activity more effective, more efficient. You'll get better results. You'll have more money, but you won't be doing so with the compromise of your time and your relationships and your health. And so we're just going to dig right in. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is this idea of knowing what you want. If you're new in the business, it can be very hard to envision what you really want because it's hard to imagine achieving the levels of success that truly are possible to you in this business. If you've never tasted it, it's hard to imagine it because when you're getting going, if you didn't have a closing this month, you're just looking for a closing. You're just looking for a paycheck, right? And so to think about having a vision of what do I really want? What is that income that's going to give me the lifestyle of my dreams? How many closings does it take to get there? Have you even figured out how many closings it takes? And have you even figured out what your goals are to get you from where you are to where you want to be? And without having the little guy on your shoulder saying that's not realistic, it's not possible. I'm here to tell you that whatever you want is actually available to you already, and it is possible. I know this because in my own journey, amazing things have happened that I never in a million years would have believed were possible if someone tried to tell me that in 2006, 2007. And so what I try to work with my clients on is, first and foremost, forget what's realistic and what's reasonable. I've seen people become self-employed as a real estate agent, and in their second year, they make $150,000. In their third year, they make $300,000. Anything is possible. You just have to decide what you want first and foremost. And so one of the processes that we do here is we work through something called, it's the WTF. What do you really want? Okay. So one of the challenges that I see a lot of people having is that when they sit down to do their goal setting, the struggle is that you go to set your goals. And first and foremost, if you're in that hungry phase, you're setting your goals from your head, thinking, what am I lacking? What am I missing? What do I need? I need to pay the bills. I'm stressed about this. I'm overwhelmed about that. And you're basically in a negative state of emotion. And so when you go to write your goals, you're writing what you think you should write. And it's coming from a place of negative emotion. And therefore, it's not really anchored in your heart. And it's not going to necessarily propel you into the activity that you need to get to where you're trying to go. Additionally, if you are feeling overwhelmed with your business, if you're working around the clock, and part of the things that you think you really want could be, for example, hiring somebody. But you're in your brain, you're telling yourself, well, how would I find the time? I don't have the time. So it's another negative state of emotion to set your goals from that place. And so one bit of homework that I have my coaching clients do is something called a brain dump. It's something that my coach had me do years ago, and I've done it over and over and over and over and over again since then. And the idea here is that you're going to take 20 minutes to unload everything that's on your mind. I usually recommend going to a hotel, lobby, a spa, resort, somewhere beautiful, somewhere different from your office, free from distraction, free from to-do list and chores. Definitely get out of your house and just go somewhere where you can kind of shift your mindset and energy to unplug from all the to-do list and set a timer, put your phone on silent, and then unload everything that's on your mind, whether it be the laundry that you need to do, the grocery shopping, that inspection resolution, whatever's on your mind, get it all out and give yourself a full 20 minutes to unload everything off your brain. They say that your brain is designed to process information, not store information. So the first thing you need to do before you decide what the heck do you really want is you need to clear your mind and clear your brain and clear your heart from all the to-do lists. Now you've got a clear head. I want you to journal for a little bit and think about, what do you really want? What is your perfect life? Why did you become self-employed to begin with? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't become self-employed to work 24/7. I heard on one of Amy Porterfield's podcasts, it made me laugh so hard. She said something about how when you become self-employed or you have a job and you have the most demanding boss ever and they have you working 7 days a week without a vacation, years on end, and 12-hour days, and then you realize that boss is you. So if that's you right now, I know that wasn't your goal when you became self-employed. So what was it? What does freedom and flexibility mean to you? Does it mean more time with your children? And if so, are you allowing yourself that? So I posted something the other day on Instagram about how, we all become entrepreneurs in pursuit of something. And in most cases, it's some combination of freedom and flexibility, financial freedom, a little more time freedom, etc. But rarely do I see people permit themselves the actual freedom and flexibility they were pursuing to begin with. And what happens is if we don't give ourselves that break, that time out to enjoy life, to spend time with our family and actually be present with them instead of preoccupied and distracted, if we don't take time out to go to the gym or do that yoga class in the middle of the day or take a walk in the woods, what ends up happening is we actually compromise our ability to be successful in business because we bring a lower energy version of ourselves forward to everyone we meet. And so I highly recommend that you figure out, what do you want your life to look like? Do you want to have a couple days a week that you go skiing if you live near the mountains? Do you want to have days out on the boat if you live near a lake or near the beach? What is it that you really want? Do you want to have a day off to spend with your husband or wife in the middle of the week and you guys have a date day while the kids are at school? Do you want to travel a certain number of weeks per year? And then as soon as you write down what you really want, the little guy on your shoulder says, oh, no, wait, you can't do that. You can't do that. That would be crazy. Well, guess what? You can. There are so many episodes of this podcast that prove that you absolutely can do whatever you want with your life, first and foremost, and that this business can be a vehicle to support that. So what do you want? Okay. This is the first step. Clear your head and then get clear about what you want. Now, I do know that, as I mentioned earlier, goal setting can be really challenging for a lot of people. If you've never sat down and written a business plan, then it can be really hard to do that because, again, we tend to just sit down and write what we think we should do based on what someone else did or what we did last year. And it really isn't always anchored in what our heart needs right now and what we need in our personal life and in our professional life, financially, etc. So I do have a business planning workshop that helps folks work through a year in review and get in tune with what really matters to you, and then organically arrive at your values and be able to set your goals for next year based on where you are right now in your life. Not where you think you should be, but where you actually are right now and what really matters to you today. Because we all know that what mattered to us 3 years ago is totally different than what matters to us today. And what matters to us 3 years from now is going to be different too. So we always need to redo our goal setting and our business planning from the heart and from today based on where you are. So if you're curious about that, I am going to be offering an online version of the business planning workshop on Thursday, November 7th. So we're going to be opening registration for that later in October. So I'll be posting about that on Facebook and Instagram and all that good stuff. But if you need help arriving at your goals, I can help you do that. Now, the second step is now you know what you want, right? You know how much money you want to make, I hope. You know how many transactions it's going to take to get there. And you know what you want your life to look like in the way of personal life, health, relationships, etc. So the next thing you need to do is you need to figure out how you're going to get there. And this is one of the biggest challenge I see is that there's two roadblocks here. One is that too many people, and I bet if you're listening, you know this is you on some days because it's me on some days too, because this is probably the hardest thing about being self-employed. It's really, really hard to set simple rules in your daily, weekly, monthly plan and actually stick to it. Because our business by design is reactive. I mean, there's no getting around that. We know that for sure. And so sometimes we're being told that we need to set a schedule, right? Like we're going to do this on Monday from this hour to that hour and from this hour to that hour. And we just know that's not realistic because what happens? Somebody inevitably happens to be in town and wants to see property that day. And you know you have to go show them property. So we all know that we have to allow what I like to call white space in our calendar for the reactive. And that is totally acceptable. But you also have got to set some very simple rules for proactive. And you need to set some boundaries around that. And here's why. If you were at a listing appointment and incoming texts and incoming calls were happening, you wouldn't be answering those because you would be busy with a client. So you need to be able to set the same exact boundary and honor the time that you spend doing proactive activities on your business, as well as the time you spend on your personal life, your health, and everything else. So for example, if getting to a yoga class or taking a run or going to the gym is part of your life plan, it needs to be in your calendar as a rock, and it needs to be protected as if it was a listing appointment, as if you were at the doctor's office. I mean, I was at the dentist the other day trying to put out a fire, and it's impossible. You cannot work when you have metal objects being shoved down your mouth, right? So I don't know. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about. You cannot be working when you're at the dentist. So can you not treat taking care of yourself as a dentist appointment? First of all, it's a lot more fun. And secondly, I mean, frankly, I'd rather be going skiing than being at the dentist anyway. So here's the deal. You figure out what you want, you put it in your calendar, and that's a few simple rules about your personal life, your health, and your relationships. Second, you commit to some simple proactive activities on a weekly basis. I don't care if you do them all in one day or if you make 5 phone calls every single day. You have to decide what's going to work for you. Here's a couple of examples of ways that you can set some simple rules for success. And one of the best, most watched podcast episodes that we have, I think it's number 7 with Lindsay Benton. And we were talking about, the whole philosophy of keep it simple, stupid. So basically, Lindsay is very disciplined in a very simple way. And I love that and I admire it. And because of knowing her, I implemented the same kind of simplicity into my own systems. And I found that the results were very powerful. So for example, if you just commit to doing 25 outbound phone calls a week, 10 handwritten notes, and you're going to have 6 appointments and see people. Now, there are formulas and generalizations for what we call conversion ratio from your activity to your results, right? So if you're someone who is not seeing the results that you would like to be seeing, and you're being honest with yourself, I would ask you, are you prioritizing the proactive, or are you permitting the reactive to dominate your entire day? Because if you're not willing to prioritize proactive along with your health and your relationships first and foremost, I can tell you right now, you're going to struggle to get the results that you want. We all find ways to make excuses for why we can't have time to make the phone calls or see the people. But guess what? We are in a relationship business. The success of your business is going to come as a result of the number of relationships you have and the amount of value that you are providing to those relationships. There is no way to provide value to people if you don't know what their problems are, if you don't know what their issues are, which means we actually have to be in communication with people in order to be able to provide value to them. So making phone calls, seeing people in person, and sending handwritten notes is, a prerequisite of succeeding in this business. We are not in the social media business, and we are not in the email business, okay? We are in the relationship business. Figuring out your minimum standard and then attempting to win the day, win the week, win the month, win the year, and you simply cannot fail. And this comes back to how ridiculously amazing, impossible things are truly possible if you decide what you want and you commit to doing the work. And we can do a whole nother workshop about how to push through your fear and pick up the dang phone. Pick up the phone, people. Stop texting and doing social media and thinking that's enough. If you are not happy with your results, it's because you need to pick up the phone more and see more people. I will say one time I went through this phase where I didn't want to see anybody. I was just so burnt out. I was like, I do not feel like going out on appointments all day, every day. And I'd rather be making phone calls from my garden, right? And I have gotten to a point in my business where I totally love making the phone calls. I mean, I found that it gets results and I am addicted to the results. Therefore, I feel the fear and do it anyway, which at some point you're going to have to do. So just get over it today and make some phone calls, would you please? Anyway, I was talking to my coach and he said that a good ratio to think about, a conversion ratio, is that for every purposeful in-person meeting that you have, you can typically expect that for every 2 appointments you have, you might see 1 referral. So let's say, for example, your goal is to generate 5 referrals per week. Then he would recommend that you have 10 appointments a week with people that can move the needle in your business. And when I said that I was like taking a hiatus from having appointments, he said, well, then you need to make a lot more phone calls, because the same general rule of thumb is that for every 10 phone calls you make, you might get a referral, which means if I needed 5 referrals a week, I would have to do 50 phone calls instead of just doing 25 phone calls and maybe getting 2.5 referrals a week. So I want you to think about that and think about what you're willing to do. What are you willing to commit to get to where you're trying to go? And what are you unwilling to allow in the way? Okay? Because right now there's probably a lot of things standing in your way. And guess who's in control of that? You. Here's the deal. You have to create the system because it's your business. I'm going to continue to give you examples, and I can give you some resources that are going to be available in the show notes, examples of ideal schedules that I've written and rewritten over the years, because as I mentioned earlier, what matters to us today is different than what matters to us in the past. So probably every couple of months, I rewrite my ideal schedule. What am I committing to getting done on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? And I laminate it and I keep it in front of me at all times. Like a nerd, I have things laminated in my journal that I can pull out and be reminded to stick to the fundamentals and keep it simple, because I want it to be simple. I want the success and the happiness and the freedom and the flexibility to be easy, and it can be. So another example is that there was a time in my business where I found myself having scattered appointments all the time. And I'm sure if you are in real estate, you can relate to this, because we are people pleasers by nature. Most of us are service oriented. We want to make people happy. And we know that in making people happy, we're going to have more success. Therefore, we find ourselves being yes people. So what happens is somebody says to me, somebody that I really do want to spend time with says to me, are you available next week? And they say, are you available next week? And I say, I'm wide open on Tuesday and Thursday. That's a huge mistake, because that means I didn't have any boundaries. I didn't create any rules for myself so that I could succeed on Tuesday and Thursday. Because frankly, being reactive is not part of the success process. It's all about the proactive. It's all about the simple rules for success, honoring those and having boundaries and honoring those, okay? So I found myself having an appointment at 9 o'clock here, and then 11 o'clock there, and then, a 2 o'clock this, and then a phone call scheduled in the middle, and then, a 5 o'clock this. And in between, I'd find, 60, 90 minutes of time between those scheduled things. And during that time, what happens? You respond to emails, you respond to text messages, you go on social media, and maybe you return any incoming phone calls. You don't do anything proactive because you didn't set the rule to begin with. The purpose of setting some rules and having some structure is simple. It makes it black and white. It makes it easy. It makes you know when you can say yes to something and when you can say no. It all comes back to the whole, I have a dentist appointment, I have to say no. I want you to treat your health and your relationships and your proactive part of your business the same way. So it's very simple. Coming back to my friend Lindsay, what she did was she had no appointments before noon. As a real estate agent, that's pretty realistic to be able to honor that rule. And that way she could get her calls done in the morning, her notes, work on files, etc. And then throughout the afternoon, it could fill up easily with reactive. It could be lunches, it could be happy hours, it could be showings, whatever the case might be, inspections, everything. And so by having that very black and white rule, if somebody says to her, do you want to grab coffee on Thursday morning? I can't, I'm tied up. It's you don't even have to think about it. You don't accidentally say yes and accidentally be reactive to somebody else's needs and wants, thereby postponing your own results and happiness and success, okay? So anyhow, I had found myself being very much all over the place. I didn't have any rules. As you know, I sucked at structure. So I just did one thing one time, and I just said, in terms of proactive meetings, obviously the reactive is going to fill in. In terms of proactive, I would do all my meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That left me in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday to handle responding to phone calls, 100% reactive. Getting my handwritten notes done, that's a proactive, but you know what I mean? So I could be in the office Monday, Wednesday, Friday, handling files, handling callbacks, handling anything else. And it kept me really clear on those days that I had plenty of time to catch up. And then when I was in the field, I was in the field. And so it was what it was. So it was super easy. Now, there's always going to be exceptions to the rules. You can always deviate from the plan. But if you don't have a simple plan to start with, how are you going to ever get from where you are to where you're trying to be? So make some simple rules. What's that going to be? Maybe you don't take appointments in the mornings. Maybe you don't take appointments on 1 or 2 days a week so that you can just handle all the reactive and fill in that space, okay? Another example of a simple rule would be your inbox. This one is ridiculously important, okay? I know that probably 98% of us are responding to email all day long on our phone, when we're at the office, when we're at a red light, everywhere we go, right? And here's my thought on that. If I wanted to get a hold of you and it was urgent, I would not be emailing you. I would be calling you. And if you don't answer, I would be texting you. Okay. I would get in your face on your phone, not send it to your inbox. And so I don't know why we are all programmed to feel that we need to check our email every 20 minutes. At the end of the day, when you are doing proactive work for your business, because you're the boss and you set the rules and you're in control of getting from where you are to where you want to be. And again, this isn't just getting your business from 0 to 60. This is getting from working 24/7 to having more balance and more space in your life to take a breath and breathe, okay? So what do you really want in your life? And are you willing to set some boundaries to get yourself on your way to being there? What I recommend is that when you get into the office, you can go through your to-do list from yesterday, you can scan your inbox, figure out what is an action item in there, add it to your to-do list. If something is urgent, handle it. If it's not, then shut off and don't look at your email for another hour and work on something that's really important. Because nothing is going to come up in an hour that they won't be blowing up your phone and your text at the same time as your email if they need to get a hold of you. And frankly, I know that you don't send an email to somebody else and expect a response right away. If you want to talk to them right away, you call them and then you text them if you're a stalker like me. So let's be real, people. Stop being a slave to your email. It's ruining your productivity. It's sapping your energy. It's sapping your creativity. It is sucking the life out of you. I know it. There's not a single person here that reads email all day long and is like, woo, that was the best day ever. I feel totally energized. So set some rules. Set an hour 3-4 times a day where you just write inbox. That's when I do my inbox, okay? I always do my inbox in the morning. I check it to make sure there's nothing super urgent that came in late last night. I add that to my to-do list. And then at 11 a.m., I purge my inbox. I file things. I deal with the urgent things. And I give my inbox an hour. There's boundaries around that too. That means that I'm not answering the phone when I'm working through my inbox because I'm getting my life and my business organized. And then I do it again at 3 o'clock, a full purge. That gives me from 4 o'clock on to make sure I react or respond and have that white space to get through what I need to get through. These are just examples, guys, okay? You don't have to adopt any one or which way, but if you haven't even thought about having some rules in your day, in your week, then you're probably feeling like you're flying by the seat of your pants. You're probably feeling a little bit out of whack. You're probably feeling like you're not exactly on track to hit your goals. And you might not even know what your goals are. You might just be trying to wing it. And if you're, just winging it, unfortunately, what's going to end up happening is that eventually when your business is really busy, you're going to find yourself exhausted and burning out. And, we've talked about burnout before where it's like you're approaching a cliff, you're climbing a mountain and you're approaching a cliff and it gets harder and harder at the top. And then when you burn out, you're going over the cliff. You got to go all the way back to the bottom of the mountain to get the energy to start over again. So don't let yourself burn out. Create some rules at any level of your business. You can create the rules, you can reset them and reset them and reset them. And then you have to daily recommit. If you fell off the wagon yesterday, and if you practice this, you will notice the way you feel at the end of the day. You will feel high, energized, accomplished. Like you'll feel really, really good when you follow the rules that you set for yourself. You'll know you won the day and you'll actually go home. And if you're going home to somebody else or an animal or whatever, you're going to go home with a higher level of energy than you're used to. If you're used to just ping-ponging through the day, checking emails constantly, responding to text messages, having no game plan for success, a lot of times at the end of the day, you're drained and depleted. Energy management is a huge part of this business about being successful and being happy. about bringing the highest level of energy that you've got to every encounter that you have a chance to have, so that you can be a magnet for the success and the happiness and the relationships that you're seeking. So if we're not managing our energy and we're allowing everybody else to manage our day, we are never going to bring the best version of ourselves forward. We're going to bring a fine version of ourselves. We can all muscle through and like suck it up and show up and smile. But at the end of the day, there's a difference between you when you're on and when you're high energy and when you know you're winning, versus the other one where you feel like I'm a slave to everybody else and I'm depleted and I'm burning out, or I'm tired, or I'm just frustrated because I'm not hitting my goals. So this is the big one. I mean, this number 2, creating a simple plan for success, is huge. So one of the things that we do in the business planning workshop is we arrive at a simple 1-page business plan, and that has 10 goals for the next 12 months that are a combination of personal and professional, financial, et cetera, wherever you are in your life. We come up with the 3 banner goals that if these 3 things happen, it's going to be the best year ever. And then below that, we really dig into what are the rocks in your schedule. And it can be very simple. For example, it could be that on the second Tuesday of every month, you're going to get your mailer out. That's a rule. Otherwise, what happens? You want to do a monthly mailer. You start out in January. Your business is a little bit slow, maybe after the holidays, and you're all guns a-blazing. I'm going to do a monthly mailer. And so you get it out and you're all excited. And then February rolls around. And you're like, all right, I'm going to get my monthly mailer out. And maybe in January it went out on the 7th, but in February it goes out on the 20th. And then business starts picking up and March rolls around. You're like, oh my gosh, it's the 28th of March. I haven't gotten my mailer out. I'm going to scramble and get that mailer out for March. And then now your pipeline's starting to fill up, and now it's April and you're like, oh my gosh, I never got the mailer out. And then it's May and June and July, and all of a sudden you're back to September and you're like, oh my God, forget it. I'll do the mailer in 2020, right? I'll do the mailer next year. So if you had set out the plan for the year that you were going to do your mailer on the second Tuesday of every month, it's black and white. You put it in your calendar, it's a rock in your schedule. You know it's happening that day, okay? This is very, very simple. It's hard because a lot of us are not structured by nature, and because we are customer service oriented, so we want to drop everything anytime someone needs us. But that is not the best version of you. It's not the best way to do your business. And so I'm going to urge you strongly to please create some rules. And I will share in the show notes examples of the ideal schedules that I've had. I'll also share an example of my 1-page business plan. And it's really simple. It's like on the first and third Wednesday of every month, I do this, right? On Mondays, I do this, my 10 handwritten notes. So it's just simplifying what has to happen so that you're not trying to carve out and schedule out every 30 minutes of your day. But if you could just say, I'm going to purge my inbox completely at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. every day, I guarantee you will get to every email. You will be on top of your business. You will have more energy. You'll be more organized. You will be more successful and more magnetic for what you're seeking, okay? So the last piece of advice I'm going to give you, number 3, oh my gosh, it took me a long time to conform to this rule for success, but it is very, very powerful, and it is tracking your activity. I did not start tracking my activity religiously until probably year 12 in the business, although every business coach I ever had was pushing me to track, right? Like if you've ever had any business coaching, you know, a lot of them nowadays have, mobile apps to help you, not make an excuse and make sure that you're tracking that every time you make an outbound phone call, even if you're doing it from the road, you can put in there +1, I made another call, or I had handwritten notes, and you're tracking all your events and all that kind of stuff. It's so important. And so I know many of you have heard this story, but January of 2019, our business dried up, our pipeline dried up. It was very stressful. Rates had gone up last year in 2018, and we were kind of starting over. And, if you're in a place in your business right now, beginning, middle, end, it doesn't matter, and you're feeling stuck, just know that's okay. This is not a straight line. This business, this journey never is, right? Nor is life. And so there's going to come times where you have to pull on your bootstraps and start over. I mean, you got to ramp up again. All kinds of things happen in our life and business that can be a catalyst for a downturn in our volume. And at the end of the day, it's nothing to be afraid of, because what you're working on is a skill set. You're working on developing yourself to become a person who has the skill set to grow your business at any time, at any place. And once you have that skill set, you own it. And pushing through your fear is a skill. Becoming more organized is a skill. Having a schedule and sticking to it is a skill. You have to practice it every day. And again, it's not going to be perfect every day. That's totally okay. But you will feel better when you practice and you get results. Whether that means I made 5 more phone calls this week, and then all of a sudden I saw leads coming in, not necessarily from the call, but from the fact that I showed up in my business and I put the energy out there. And then you realize, wow, that feels amazing. It doesn't mean you're going to be perfect next week, but it's going to be a reminder to continue to do that, to continue to push through, to continue to push through not answering every incoming text message the second it comes in, because you're working on yourself or your business or whatever it might be. Okay. So anyhow, coming back to early 2019, our business had slowed down a lot, and we only had a few closings in January and February. So we got religious about tracking. And it came down to really taking the big picture goal and chunking it down to what are you doing today to take you to the big picture goal. So let's dig into this a little bit. I had a really big goal of closing 15 units in 1 month in 2019. Actually, it was a goal in 2018 too, and I only got to 12, so it just stayed there. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to make it happen. So you don't worry about how long it takes to achieve your goals, number one. The time passes anyway, so set the big goals. Who cares? It doesn't matter how long it takes. Just set the goal, okay? So the goal was 15 in a month. And one of the general formulas to kind of think of is that 50% of your leads will actually engage with you and talk to you, and 50% of those will close. That's a conservative conversion ratio to use to figure out how much activity do you need to do and how many referrals are you looking to get each week. So let's back it up a little bit. So if we wanted to close 15 closings in 1 month, that means we would need 30 applications. And that would mean, that's for a lender obviously, but for you guys it would mean like 30 conversations, appointments, etc. And then that means you need 60 leads. And when I say lead, I mean like I'm at a soccer game and one of the other moms says, I gave your name to my neighbor who is looking to buy a house or whatever. And that person may or may not ever actually call me or refer me, but it's a sign to me that the universe is out there to support me. People are passing your name around. So 50% of those leads will actually engage with you. 50% of those will close. So that means if I needed 60 leads in a month, then I needed 15 per week, which means that typically the general simple math is however many closings you want per month, you're looking to get that many referrals per week, okay? So if you're looking to close 2 transactions a month, you're looking for 2 referrals a week. So that means every day you wake up and you know that my goal is to get a referral today, and I'm going to do the activity until the referral comes in from wherever it comes from, okay? So we got really clear on that. We wanted to get 15 referrals per week, which meant we wanted 3 per day. That meant if 1 o'clock rolled around and I didn't have any new referrals coming in, I was going to pick up the phone, whether I was in the mood to or not. Because if you want it bad enough, you're going to have to show up and do the work. So we started tracking everything. We tracked all of the phone calls, all of the notes, all of the meetings, and all of the new referrals coming in and where they were coming from. We also had a goal that we wanted 5 of the 15 to be repeat referral from past client and sphere. And so we were tracking that as well. Where was it coming from? And it was low in January. It was only 22%. We wanted it to be 33%. So we focused more on our database and our past clients. And by April, we brought that number up to 50% repeat and referral from past client. You can control this process so much more than you might think by getting really, really crystal clear on what do you want? What are you willing to do to get there? Are you willing to set boundaries and honor them? And then track the activity and watch what happens. Because between February closing 3 transactions and June closing 17 transactions, we watched like a science project, right? It was incredible. And it's so funny that it's embarrassing to admit that I never did tracking religiously up until the last year or two. I mean, in January, we got super specific even more than we had been. We started tracking in 2018, but I mean, it's embarrassing to admit that, but it is really cool. And it's so simple. I don't know why we don't do it. I don't know why we're all averse to having a little bit of structure in our day. I used to think that structure was like an albatross. I'm like this free spirit who just wants to be able to roam the earth whenever I feel like it and have no rules and regulations. And I think that is a lot of us, right? We become self-employed because we don't want anybody telling us what to do. But if we don't tell ourselves what to do and follow the advice and create the system, no one's going to do it for you. It's your business. And I just laugh because now that we have a little simple structure, some very black and white rules, during these windows, I do this. That means if someone tries to have an appointment with me during that window, I'm at the dentist. I am busy. I can't do it during that time. And that is such a small amount of structure that has been so liberating. I am so much more liberated by knowing what the plan is than by winging it. I can't even tell you. It's so much less stressful than waking up every day wondering, what am I supposed to do today to get from where I am to where I'm trying to go? And then you jump on the hamster wheel and then you get home at night and you're like, what the heck did I do today? Okay. So I'm going to share in the show notes a couple of resources from this particular episode. I hope it was helpful for you. And I hope you hang up and pick up the phone and start making those dang calls because you need to have some rules. You need to do the activity and anything is possible. You can create anything you want in this life, in this business. This business can be the most amazing vehicle to help you design the life of your dreams. And if you're looking for inspiration and you haven't heard some of the past podcasts, I just encourage you to go back and find some of these stories that will inspire you to believe that this is real and it's possible and that you can have the life of your dreams. You don't have to compromise that for this business, but only you can decide that you're willing to set some rules and that you're willing to move forward and practice every day to be a better person with a better skill set, and you will be invincible. So I love and appreciate you as always. Stay tuned and pay attention. Follow me on Instagram at Pursuing Freedom Official. Join our closed Facebook group, which is also Pursuing Freedom. And just keep an eye out if you're curious and you want to be able to participate on November 7th in the business planning workshop. You'll leave with the simple one-page business plan, which I will share that example and that template in the show notes. And as always, you can contact me through the website, pursuingfreedom.com. I am so happy to follow your journey and hear about your successes. And I'm here to support you if you're having challenges. So don't ever hesitate to reach out. And as always, have a great day. I appreciate you.